We're streamlining, Brad Dennis declared, standing with authority. No room for excess baggage. You're out. I gaze at the 28-year-old, CEO for barely 7 hours, his Harvard Business School diploma still tagged with a price sticker behind him. Understood, I said, voice calm despite the jolt coursing through me. 9 years at Dennis Materials, dismissed in seconds. May I know the reason? I asked. Brad smirked, a poor imitation of confidence. My father needed a crutch for every deal, but I'm reshaping this company's future. I nodded, clutching the personnel files I'd been reviewing, including my own meticulously crafted employment contract. I'll need written confirmation, I said, standing from the guest chair in what was once Charles Dennis's office, now Brad's after his retirement. HR will prepare something, Brad replied, waving me off, eyes on his screen. Security will walk you out. Standard process. I collected my notepad and pen, composure intact from years of tough negotiations. Thank you for the opportunity, I said. Brad's brow furrowed at my calm, but he flashed another rehearsed grin. Good luck, Rita. As security watched me pack a cardboard box, my phone buzzed with colleagues' messages, aware of my executive floor exit. I ignored them, focusing on retrieving my employment contract from my desk drawer, the one Charles revised 3 years ago when Westlake Supplies tried to recruit me. Ready? The guard asked, uneasy. He knew me, as did everyone at Dennis, as the problem solver. Almost, I replied, slipping the contract into my bag. Just need to say goodbye. But I didn't. I strode past my stunned team to the elevator, out into Tulsa's brisk morning. In my car, I exhaled, pulling out the contract, flipping to the clause Charles insisted on, negotiated with care. A smile crept across my face. Brad had just made a costly error. 9 years ago, at 26, I joined Dennis Materials, eager to prove myself post-law school, specializing in contracts. Charles interviewed me himself, impressed by my precision and courage to challenge flawed clauses. Most lawyers just sign off, he'd said. I need someone who spots trouble. Hired the next day, I grew beyond a contract specialist. Charles relied on me for supplier crises, client disputes, and regulatory hurdles. I saved millions rewriting agreements, closed costly loopholes, and became his trusted advisor. 3 years ago, Westlake offered a staggering salary. Charles countered with a contract reflecting my value. A year's severance, equity vesting, a non-compete waiver, and a $250,000 payout if fired without cause. Your family, Rita, he'd said. This company thrives because of you. I believed him, giving 6 more years. Then Charles retired. Brad's ascension was no surprise. Nepotism thrived despite the company's meritocratic image. In the weeks before Charles's exit, I noticed Brad's calculating stares. When I presented a risk-heavy compliance report, he brushed it off as overcaution, stalling progress. Charles backed my diligence, but I sensed trouble updating my resume. I hadn't anticipated such an abrupt firing. No warning, no pretense, just you're done, from a man handed his father's legacy. Driving home, I wondered if Brad even glanced at my file. That night, I spread my contract beside HR's rush termination notice, the latter misspelling my name. I dialed Leonard Phillips. Rita, what's up? He answered. How's Dennis? I inhaled. I was fired today. A pause. You're joking. Charles fired you. Not Charles. Brad. Charles retired. Another pause. His loss. We're expanding in Tulsa and could use your Dennis expertise. I smiled. Before you go on, my contract has significant termination clauses. I outlined the severance, equity, non-compete waiver, and payout. Leonard whistled. Does Brad know? Doubt he checked. Perfect timing. We need your contract and client knowledge. I grinned. Thought you'd say that. We discussed roles and pay for an hour, ending with a verbal offer doubling my Dennis salary, formal offer pending. The firing was a shock, but an opportunity Brad's ignorance created. My phone buzzed. Diane, my assistant. You okay? Everyone stunned. Charles is back tomorrow. Charles, meant to be cruising. Cutting his retirement short meant Brad had told him. I'm fine. I texted, surprised by the timing. Diane replied. Brad's announcing a new company direction, his own team. Brad wasn't just firing me, He was dismantling Charles's foundation. Keep me posted, I wrote, filing my papers. Tomorrow would shift things Brad didn't expect. He thought he'd seize control. Instead, he'd unlocked my next move. Next morning, I returned to Dennis Materials, not as an employee but with purpose. The receptionist, Tracy, gaped. Miss Howard, I thought. Is Charles here? I asked calmly. In the conference room with Brad, she stammered. I smiled, heading up, heels clicking. Shouting echoed from the executive floor, Charles's voice usually composed. Did you read her contract before firing her? Executives and assistants lingered, pretending not to eavesdrop. Diane rushed over. Rita, why are you here? Meeting, I said. With who? Brad's getting reamed by Charles. I nodded. Charles wouldn't sail away while his company veered off course. The conference room door burst open, Brad storming out, face red, freezing when he saw me. What are you doing? He snapped. Charles appeared, pleased. Rita, perfect. Join us. He dismissed the onlookers. Inside, papers littered the table, including my contract. Veronica Wyatt, HR head, looked uneasy. Veronica was explaining why your firing's an issue, Charles said, shutting the door. Veronica coughed. Miss Howard's contract has protections. I know them. I cut in smoothly. 1-year severance, vested equity, non-compete waiver, and a $250,000 payout for termination without cause. Brad's face shifted, disbelief, anger, panic. That's not right, he said, snatching a contract, flipping frantically. Page 7, paragraph 4, I offered. Charles watched Brad, disappointed. I taught you to check details. This is why. Brad read, paling. This is binding. Signed by Charles, I confirmed. Charles softened. Rita, I'm sorry for my son's actions. Your termination's reversed, position, office all restored. I'd expected this. Charles valued loyalty. But loyalty wasn't why I returned. Thank you, I said. But I've accepted a role elsewhere. Silence. Brad dropped the contract. Where? Charles asked, suspecting. Westlake Supplies, Director of Contract Management and Compliance, starting Monday. Brad laughed sharply. You can't. Non-compete's waived, I reminded. Page 9, paragraph 2. Charles sank into his chair, aging visibly. You planned this? No, I said honestly. But I'd be foolish not to seize the chance. They'll want our clients' pricing, Brad panicked. I raised an eyebrow. I'm entitled to use that, given my termination. But my Westlake contract bars proprietary misuse. Leonard's ethical. Charles nodded, unsurprised, knowing Leonard's principles. What do you want, Rita? He asked. The question startled me. Revenge. Apology. What I'm owed, I said. And fair treatment for those still here. Brad scoffed. This isn't a charity. Your father built this by valuing people, I countered. That's why Dennis has low turnover, loyal suppliers, trusted clients. Charles looked thoughtful. You care about this company. 9 years of my life, I said. I'd hate to see it undone in days. Brad opened his mouth, but Charles silenced him. What's your proposal, Rita? I handed over a folder. A consulting deal. I'll aid transition, advise on contracts, share client insights. In return, I get my termination compensation plus a consulting fee. Charles skimmed it, smiling faintly. You've planned this. It's what you hired me for, I said. He passed it to Brad. Read it carefully this time. Brad took it, sullen, eyes widening as he saw its value despite his pride. This gives her access while at Westlake, he objected. With confidentiality clauses, I noted, and clear proprietary boundaries. Leonard approved. Charles looked impressed. You cleared this with Westlake. A condition of my acceptance, I confirmed. Expertise without ethics issues. Brad tossed the folder down. Blackmail. Negotiation, Charles corrected. You'd know if you'd learned the business, not assumed you could run it on theory. Tension crackled, years of expectations exposed. Veronica slipped out, leaving us with Brad's mistakes fallout. I'll review this, Charles said, closing the folder. Of course, I replied, but my transition offer ends today. After that, it's lawyers for my payout. Brad's face reddened. An ultimatum? Practicality, I corrected. Westlake needs my focus. They've been generous. Charles studied me, seeking resentment. Finding none, he nodded. Always fair, Rita. He turned to Brad. Step out. I need Rita alone. Brad glared but left, slamming the door. He has potential, Charles said. Lacks patience, humility. He sighed. I thought the CEO role would mature him. My error. Not my place to judge, I said carefully. Charles smiled wryly. Diplomatic. But this isn't how I wanted your time at Dennis to end. Nostalgia hit. Years of challenges, victories. Business is business. I echoed his old phrase. He picked up my proposal. I'll sign and ensure Brad respects it. Thank you. He paused. Off the record, what would bring you back? Not now, later. Surprised, I considered. Dennis would need a new culture, leadership valuing people, not just profit. A tall order. Charles laughed. You asked. I reminded. He shook my hand. An honor, Rita. Likewise, I said, emotional. Leaving, Charles added, Brad'll attend your transition meetings, his education. I smiled. Fitting. Outside, Brad paced, furious. Satisfied? You've undermined me day one. You did that firing me without reading my contract, I said calmly. You'll attend transition meetings. Contract Management 101. His shock was almost worth the chaos. Monday, I entered Westlake's sleek headquarters as their new director. Leonard showed me my office. Downtown view, a stark contrast to Dennis's. Tried to get you for years, he said over coffee. Surprising circumstances. Life's twists, I replied. The consulting deal was smart, he said. Your expertise, no legal mess. It's right, I said. Charles built Dennis from nothing. I respect that, despite Brad. Leonard nodded. First meeting's tomorrow. Ready. Handover notes done, I said. Smooth transition, no issues. Brad. He'll struggle, but Charles will manage. Leonard grinned. No drama needed. News of my exit spread through Tulsa's business scene. Colleagues texted. Shock. Job inquiries. I stayed neutral, neither encouraging nor dismissing. The first Dennis meeting was tense. Brad sat silent as I detailed contracts. Charles asked clarifying questions. After, he pulled me aside. Thanks for doing this right, he said. You could have let us sink. No one wins then, I replied. Over 2 months, I split time between Westlake and Dennis. Meetings eased as Brad saw my notes' value, asking questions, taking notes, a shift from his initial arrogance. At the final meeting, he approached. I underestimated you, he said, measured. Misjudged the situation. Surprised, I nodded. Mistakes happen, especially new to a role. He frowned. Dad says that. Not an excuse. No, I agreed. But admitting it's a start. He hesitated. Consulting ends next week. Would you extend, just for complex contracts? Unexpected. Not sure that fits with Westlake. I'll check with Leonard. I did, Brad said. He's open, with boundaries. I noted to confirm. Why me? You know our business, he admitted. And I need to show Dad I can learn. I saw new humility. I'll consider it, I said. He nodded, accepting. Leaving Dennis, I reflected. I'd gained compensation, enhanced reputation, and respect from Brad. At Westlake, my Dennis knowledge strengthened client ties and contracts. Leonard gave me broader roles, pleased. Brad's oversight reshaped my career unexpectedly. Revenge wasn't tearing him down. It was rising so high he had to look up.